Next would be, we would be listening to Kavita Sundrapandian, a middle schooler, chats with Vrinda Bansal, founder of ThinkFastRobotics, an organization that creates a safe, positive, and competitive environment for aspiring female and non-binary robots. Vrinda is currently a junior at Rotary Valley High School. Let's hear from Vrinda and Kavita.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm happy to introduce a passionate high schooler who has formed an organization for women in robotics. She has worked hard to make the field of robotics more inclusive. Here today is Vrinda Bansal. Hi, Vrinda. Please tell us about yourself and your incredible journey to where you are today.
Hi, Kavita. Thank you for having me today. So my name is Vrinda Bansal, and I'm a high school junior in the San Francisco Bay Area. Just a little bit about me is that I was actually born in India. I moved to Canada, and then I lived there for about 12 years, and I moved to the United States. I know it's a lot. I can speak about 4 languages: English, Hindi, French, and Python. I'm currently involved at Reinvented Magazine, Artificial Intelligence Club, Key Club, and I recently started ThinkFastRobotics. We'll go over ThinkFastRobotics a little later. So my journey started in 6th grade, where my teacher gave us a 20% project. Me being really ambitious, wanted to create a robot which could help the elderly shovel the snow, rake the leaves, mow the lawn. And that's kind of where it all started. My interest peaked, and I just did some research. From there, my family moved to the Bay Area, where I found so many opportunities around me. The summer going into high school, I decided to compete at a Vexabil-powered competition at Google. This was truly the turning point, because I went into the competition knowing absolutely nothing about mechanical build, robotics programming, but what I came out of it was a lot of experience and a newfound interest. Growing this experience in high school, I joined my school robotics team and competed on that for 2 years, eventually competing at world level. Then I realized that during my time at my school teams, I noticed there was a lot of discrimination and discouragement towards girls in robotics. So how did I decide to fix this? This is where I created ThinkFastRobotics. ThinkFastRobotics is an organization aimed to empower girls and women in robotics so that they have a place to explore it and compete in it. ThinkFastRobotics today has 5 members, and we're currently competing at state level with 5 awards under our belt. We also run an apprenticeship program for girls who are interested in robotics but absolutely know nothing about it. We'll talk a little bit about that later as well.
Wow, that is truly an amazing journey. You talked a little about your company, but what was it like building up a company based on your passion?
So I absolutely love that question, because there are many people out there who want to do something like this but just don't know where it started. So for me, building up a company based on my passion had 2 main components, 2 main hardships that I faced. One was gaining the confidence in myself that it's possible, because a lot of times, especially being a girl, there will be a lot of people out there who will laugh at you, make fun of you, and be like, "Oh, you can't do that." So getting that confidence was definitely something that was super important, and I gained that over time. The second thing was, because the world's not perfect, budgeting and financial issues. So creating a company requires, especially in robotics, because there's a lot of like electronics involved, and just in general, competitions are expensive, especially in Vex. That was definitely something hard. Eventually, we finally raised enough money, about $4,000, so we could get started, and I'm really grateful to everybody who helped us. The next thing was actually building the robot. Being a new team, I recruited a couple new people who did not know anything about robotics. So teaching them, which involved a lot of sacrifice, was definitely another thing that we had to go through. Finally, which I'm really proud of, was our tournaments. So attending tournaments was probably the most nerve-wracking thing, because there's a lot of other people there. There's a lot of other teams who are there who are going to laugh at you for being a new team. So building up a company was definitely nerve-wracking. There were a lot of problems that we faced. And so I think that when I built up the company, I'm grateful for the experiences that I had.
So 2 important things to build a company are perseverance and funding. But if you have a good idea and are confident, then anything is possible. Robotics seems very interesting, but I don't have any experience. So what advice would you give for people like me?
Also another great question. I think that the main 2 pieces of advice would be, the best way to do it would be just do some research. Talk to people around you, Google it, put your heart and soul into the research, and just learn about the subject, learn about whatever you're interested in. The next step would be, for me at least, and I think this is really helpful for anybody, would be to find a workshop or a hackathon like this one. A lot of times these can be your passage into this type of world, especially robotics, because once you do a workshop, it can also tell you whether or not you're genuinely interested in this, and if you want to use your time and look into this. So that's why I think that the best way to get into it would be to do some research and find a workshop or anything that can just help you learn about it and get into it.
The next question is very similar. What kind of mindset do girls need to enter the field of robotics?
So to enter the field of robotics, I think, especially being a girl, we have a little different mindset that we'll need to take. So first thing is that you'll have to be willing to make sacrifices. When you enter the field of robotics, you're going to have to work really, really hard because no matter how good you do, a lot of times people will find flaws in it. So be willing to make sacrifices and be willing to spend your time on it. The next thing is keep a cool head. As I mentioned before, there will be people out there who will tell you that it's not possible for you to do it. And I think one thing that you're going to need to know going into it is that people are going to say things like that, but you're going to have to learn how to keep a cool head. The next thing, which I guess is the opposite of what I said, is to be ready to fight. What it means is don't just fight randomly, but if somebody tells you, if you make something that's awesome and it works, and people will be like, oh, I don't want to use it just because a girl made it. You have to be ready to fight. You have to be ready to tell them, and you have to be ready to be so good that nobody can ever deny. Yep.
Thank you for those very helpful tips. Moving on. We just saw a rover land on Mars. Robotics has come so far. What do you think this generation of kids has to look forward to?
All right, so this generation of kids has to look forward to a lot of different things because there's so many possibilities. As we just saw, the rover landed on Mars. If you were following it, you'd see that there was a 7-minute autonomous period where the robot was deciding for itself what to do or not. So in the future, in our future generation, I think there's a lot of things that we can do with robotics and just in technology using AI, especially the combination of robotics and AI, because I know we've all seen those movies about cyborgs and robotics taking over the world, but combining AI, combining robotics is definitely something our future generation is going to have to do, and it's something that we should look forward to do. As well as that, there's so many ideas floating around in the world. There's so many different possibilities. As I said before, like creating that snow shoveling robot, Roomba, enhancing Roomba, and things like that. So I think this is definitely something that we have a lot to do in the future.
Yes, everybody has different ideas, and they can all become reality with enough hard work. How would you inspire women and non-binary people who deserve a chance in the field of AI, robotics, and technology?
When you're on the edge of going into robotics, I think the best way to inspire yourself, because nobody can convince you better than yourself, is to look at people around you, to look at, just to look at people around you, find different role models, find something that you're passionate about, because even if a lot of people have pushed from their homes to get into robotics and technology. And I think that if you can find a project that you are genuinely passionate about, then that will definitely help you a lot. For me, I always had a push to go into programming, into coding, but it never really resonated with me until I found robotics and until I found a physical application of what I was coding up. So I think that you should always look into different aspects of just robotics technology or AI, and just find something that resonates with you. It's something that you want to learn more about, something that you want to really do.
Inspiring yourself is the best way to convince yourself to do something. But on the other hand, who are your role models who inspire you to continue breaking these stereotypes?
So it's a little complicated question. I don't actually have a role model, but I think the one thing that helps me continue breaking these stereotypes would be the quote, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Mahatma Gandhi spoke this, and when I was first starting, this is what I recited almost every single day, because I realized that if I'm not going to do it, nobody will. And so I think that this quote really helps, because every time I just feel like I want to give up, I recite this quote and I realize that if I'm not going to do it, nobody else will.
That quote is very powerful and inspiring. Do you have any final words for those who have joined us today?
So finishing it up, I would say that just don't be afraid to try new things. If you're genuinely passionate about something, do research, find opportunities near you. And I know that during COVID, finding opportunities is really hard. So if you do enough research, there are people out there, there are organizations out there that you can do lots of things. One thing that really helped me was LinkedIn. Some of you may be a little young for LinkedIn, but definitely look into it if you can. On LinkedIn, you'll find so many different opportunities. So if you connect with people near your age group, there'll be people posting about what they're doing. And then especially for my organization, we do everything remotely. We do everything during COVID. So if you want to look into it, you can definitely go to thinkfastrobotics.com, .weebly.com. We have an apprenticeship program, which is completely remote. So there are opportunities out there for you. Don't worry and just try to find them out.
Thank you for inspiring us all today. You were really helpful, and I hope that your company continues to break these stereotypes.
Thank you, Kavita and Vrinda. And we have Vrinda for Q&A today, and kids can, ask your questions. You can unmute yourself and ask your questions. Welcome, Vrinda.
Thank you, Ms. Meena. So I just want to start off saying that at this time, at least for my Q&A, feel free to turn on your camera. I love to see faces if I'm talking to you guys. So yeah, just go ahead, do that. And yeah, you can get started. Just ask anything, any questions you have in your head.
What would you say was your biggest struggle?
Okay, so
Please say your name and team's name.
Oh, yeah, I'm Chelsea from the NEEC team.
Thank you.
Yep. So as I kind of touched on this before in the interview as well, is that my biggest struggle would basically just be gaining the confidence. Because coming from like a prior school team full of guys, I think that gaining the confidence that like, even though I'm a girl, I still have the same amount of capability. And so I think that just getting that confidence would be the biggest struggle. And then after you get that confidence, I think that everything just becomes a small problem for you.
I'm Sherry from Hector's group, and I want to know what kept you motivated to keep you reaching for your goal.
What kept me motivated were my team, actually. My entire team, being the captain of it, I think that being the leader and seeing their passion and seeing my passion, I think that just my team and the fact that, you know, every day we have to break a stereotype, we have to, you know, keep going forward, we have to pave the way. And so I think that passion and that, you know, kind of resilience is something that really does keep me motivated. Another thing that keeps me motivated is a lot of times we do receive comments like, hey, you know, my daughter is interested in this and she saw your video and she was really inspired and she's looking into something. So I think that getting those comments or hearing things like that really like touch my heart, at least in our team, and that keeps us really motivated every day.
Hi, I'm Nitya from the Hector Garcia team, and I was wondering how you found that robotics was like one of your passions. Like, when did you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was waiting for that. So I attended one of the robotics workshops. I actually had a friend who just told me, she was like, oh, this thing's happening in Google. And I heard Google and my ears were like, oh, Google. And so I decided, I was like, hey, you know, I'm just gonna go check it out. And so I went and I did check it out, you know, and like, they taught me things about robotics. And I realized that I like building things with my hands and I like seeing a physical impact. For some people, you know, making models online, things like that is their thing. But for me, just having like that exposure at that event was kind of like the turning point. I was like, hey, you know what, this is something I want to look into. And then I joined my school team. I learned more about it in my school. And then eventually, as I learned more about it, I did more research on it. I kind of figured out, I was like, oh yeah, this is something that I'm passionate about.
Sorry, you can go. Hi, I'm Mahi from the Grace Hopper team, and I was going to ask you, how do you make ThinkFastRobotics?
How did I make it?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So how did I make it? So to make ThinkFastRobotics, what I first did was I did, first off, research. I was like, I looked up other organizations. I'm like, hey, these are people who are doing organizations. How does an organization work? What are the multiple aspects? So the first thing I did was when I had the idea, I made up like a timeline for myself, I was like, okay, these are the aspects. First, I need to recruit people. Then I need to put up a website. Then I need to do fundraising. Then I need to make a final team. And then I need to compete at competition. So I made this basic timeline for myself. And then I just took it one step at a time, because at first it can look daunting, right? Like just an organization, like I'm CEO of an organization. It sounds really big, but it's not. And so just taking it one step at a time, first finding people. So first I reached out to people in my school who I knew were struggling. And then just I went on like that. And yes, Stephanie, go ahead. You can ask questions in the chat.
This is Sonia from the Katherine Johnson team. I was wondering, what was the hardest part of like establishing your organization?
So two things: getting the trust of other people, being a private organization. So getting the trust of people from my school that, you know, they can come into my garage and work with me, because that is scary, right? Like, how do I trust somebody who's just making this out of like thin air, right? And so just getting that trust, and then obviously fundraising, being private, we have no school support, no support from anywhere. So just obviously, because it's expensive, we had to raise about $6,000. So how to do that, you know, applying for grants, applying for sponsorships, you know, reaching out to people, doing crowdfunding, things like that were definitely a struggle. So Stephanie asks, what plans do you currently have for the future, like further expansion for the company and education? So for my company specifically, for my organization, ThinkFast, obviously we want to open up branches. We want to open up branches of our teams in Bex Robotics all around California, because I know on other teams, like for example, there's another high school in our area who I've heard that struggles with the same problem. So obviously trying to get it out there, that this is an option for you, this is something you can do, is definitely something. And then also our apprenticeship program, we really hope to reach out to more girls who really want to learn about it, because I know that there's a lot of people out there who want to, know that robotics is a thing, they don't know how. So I think reaching out to those people, especially in the Bay Area here, would definitely be something that we're looking forward to. So if you guys are also interested in that, definitely reach out to me. I can drop the link in the chat afterwards. Yeah. Feel free to ask more technical questions as well, you guys. Just anything that you're curious about.
Hello, my name is Sophia. I'm from the Katherine Johnson group. I just wanted to know if I wanted to support you and be part of this, and hopefully get some people from my school maybe to be involved with this. Where can I go? Do I go directly to you? Like, what can I do?
Yep. So if you do, actually, let me drop the link in the chat. We have a website and we have like a whole contact page. So you can literally just send us an email, shoot us an email, and we will get back to you. So let me just put that in the chat right now.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so Mahi asked, I said that we went to competitions. So what were the competitions focused on? So let me just go over a little bit about the VEX League. I don't know if you guys have heard that. So the VEX League is kind of a robotics education league where every year they come up with a competition or a game that you have to compete in. So at least for this year, the game is similar to basketball, right? There's like balls, there's like a small 12 by 12 foot field. And in the 12 by 12 foot field, there's small like hoops, and then there's balls. So basically the idea is that we create a robot that can take those balls and put them in the hoops. And so how it works is that there will be 4 robots on that 12 by 12 field at once. One red side, one blue side. The red side has to get as many red balls in, the blue side has to get as many blue balls in. So when we go to competitions, we kind of see other robots. We build a robot that can maybe specialize in different things, because it's like some places it's hand to hand. So maybe you want to create a robot that's really strong that you can ram into other robots, play defense. Maybe you want a robot that's really fast and that can dodge and shoot quickly. So just strategy there, and that's kind of what we do at competitions. What was it like getting your organization running? So to get my organization running, it was nerve-wracking. It was definitely nerve-wracking. On a more technical perspective, I feel like getting the organization running is something that you have to be very careful of, like in legality. in just the small things. My mom taught me throughout this entire thing was that always keep $100, $200 in your hands, because there was a time where we were like running really, really low on money. I was like, oh no, what are we gonna do? We had to spend it here. So I think that the learning process was really important. Having parents or having somebody to guide you and support you is important. And then Charlotte asks, how long do most of your robotic projects take to build? Okay, so it depends. So our first robot, we named it Toad, took about 3 to 4 months to build. This was because we, as I mentioned before, we had 3 new members on the team who've literally never done robotics before. So we were kind of teaching them, and they were learning as we went. So the first robot took a while. The second robot took about like a month. So that's kind of like the progress. And then from the time we started planning, when it comes to planning the team, yes, it took 3 to 4 months. When we started planning the organization, it took about 5 months because we had to put together the organization in a month. So I hope that answers your question. If you want me to clarify. Okay.
Thank you all. So maybe a few more questions have come up, and maybe Vrinda, would you mind to reply for them in the chat window so that we can move on to the next session. The lunch break is almost there, so we would want to finish it off. And thank you, Vrinda, for all the explanation. We had so many questions that has been answered today. Thank you very much for joining today.